so today I'm going to explain to you how I annotate my books. Now, if you asked the Jessica from 2 years ago if I would as so much fold a page, I would have been like, as a book lover, that's a act of blasphemy. That is so sacrilegious to my beliefs on how to treat a book. Now, I would never annotate on a book that isn't mine. That's just wrong. But I reflected on it, and last year I decided to finally annotate. I thought that it was just a sign of love and ownership, and it would just enhance my reading experience. I also got a chance to see where I was mentally. For example, praising a relationship when in reality it was super toxic. I've caught myself getting more emotional about a certain scenario because life. And so I like to see where my train of thought was in the past and then compare it to the present. Now, if you're a subscriber to Books with Chloe and you've seen her annotations video, you might notice how there's many similarities between the two of us. I just noticed that there's this thing in the back, so let's just pretend I was never there. As I was saying, if you've seen her annotations video, you might notice a lot of similarities with her form of annotations to my own because she inspired me to annotate. So many of my process is parallels. You know, it was bold of me to think that I could make this video with 2 hours of sleep. My 2 brain cells are working overtime right now. So as I'm trying to say, you might notice how our process is similar. I want to categorize this video into 3 parts. I want to tell you the items, my annotation system, and then the actual process. So first, I'm going to start off with the items that I use. I'm going to tell you them in order of the absolutely necessary to just the luxury. Now, the first thing is a pen or a pencil. That is pretty obvious. Well, it doesn't matter what kind of writing utensil you use, but my favorite are these 2 cat pens that I bought in Amazon. I've also seen them in a lot of little Asian stores when I go to Little Tokyo. I think these are the best pens I've ever owned, and if you were to buy anything from the things that I mentioned, these are the ones to buy, just because they have a really fine tip. They glide so smoothly across the page. They don't ink through. I will say that they kind of run out pretty fast, but I don't know if that's just because there's a little bit of ink or because I use it a lot. However, I will say that I have pens that I've literally had since I was like 5 years old, and they've seen me grown up, so maybe it's just because these pens have a little bit of ink. Now, if you're debating on whether or not you want to start annotating, I recommend starting with the pencil just because you can erase your annotations. If you are unsure if you like the book or not and you don't want to make the commitment of writing on it with pen because you might unhaul it one day, then also use a pencil. The second item that I use are sticky tabs. If you do not want to buy these sticky tabs, you could do alternatives. For example, you could just simply doggy tab the page, as in fold the corner of the page, or if you own Postits, you could cut them into strips. Make sure to cut them vertically from the bottom side where the sticky part is at. That's pretty self-explanatory, but you can leave it up to me to fuck up in that sense. I forgot to mention the pros and cons of using the page markers that I use and the post-it method. The reason why I don't use post-its is because when I shove the book into my bookshelves, the post-its tend to fold, and that annoys me, whereas the page markers are a little more flexible, so no matter how you stack it, it's still gonna stay in place and it's gonna stick out. I guess it's more of an aesthetic thing, but that bothers me, and that might bother you too, so I think it's worth mentioning. The third item that I use are multicolored markers. Now we're getting to the part where it's like, you really don't need this. I like these. I bought them on Amazon because they were super cheap and they don't ink through the pages. Sometimes if the pages are super thin, then you might see the ghost of it on the next page, but that doesn't bother me. However, I know that does bother some people. Now, if you do not want to buy markers or you don't have some, then you could just simply use the pen or pencil that you're using to make commentary on, or you can use a highlighter, which works as well. Now, the last thing that I use, which is not often, are Postits. And I use different sizes just depending how much I want to write. Honestly, this is like the most unnecessary item that I use. They're really just good for writing big summaries that I can't fit onto the margins of the book, or for just writing down important information like character names or unique words to the plot. Finally, I'm going to tell you the color system behind each tab and marker. Each tab is associated to an emotion or a plot device, and each tab has an associated marker that goes with with it. If that doesn't make sense, I'll explain to you. If I annotate with a pink tab, the associated marker is the pink marker. This describes a scene that I love. The following is the orange tab, and the associated marker that goes along with it is the orange marker. This describes a scene that makes me angry. The next one is the yellow tab, and the associated marker that goes with it is the red marker. This includes badass moments or just a revelation that is shocking to me. This is more common with characters. If it's something related to the plot, then I will use the green tab, and the green tab is associated to the green marker. This is used for information important to the plot, such as settings or magic system. When I reread a book, I like to underline foreshadowings that the author left, so I use that green tab as well. The fifth tab is the blue tab, and the associated marker to it is the light blue marker. This just describes a scene that makes me sad. The next one is a dark purple tab, and the associated marker that goes along with it is the dark blue marker. This describes any important character information such as descriptions, but I especially use this tab to mark any character arcs that I find very important. And the final one is the purple tab, and the associated marker that goes along with it is the purple marker. This describes a scene that I find funny. And now to the actual annotation process. I have different levels of annotations. It just depends how lazy I'm feeling, but I'm going to describe to you the most extra level, I guess, of annotation that I do, but then I'll explain to you what I do when I'm feeling lazy or I just don't feel like pulling out all the materials. When I find a section that I want to annotate, I typically use the straight edge of the marker or the straight edge of the plastic where the sticky tabs are stuck to, and I will grab the marker that is associated to my feelings or associated to the plot device that I want to annotate. Now, I don't always use the marker color that is associated to the tab because sometimes I have a mixture of emotions towards the scene. So, for example, if there is a scenario that shows some type of character development, then I will sometimes use the pink marker and the dark purple tab. Let me explain. Let's say, hypothetically speaking, that this character finally admits to romantic feelings towards another character. I love those scenes, so I will underline it with a pink marker, and then I will stick a dark purple tab because that is the more dominant emotion towards the scene. You know, me loving it is just like a subcategory to the main idea. If I want to underline a whole section and I don't want to waste time going through every single line, then I will draw a vertical line alongside the text. This is more common with the green tab, which describes any plot information, because authors tend to just info dump sometimes. So like I said, I will draw a vertical line alongside the text, and then if it's something plot related, I will provide a brief description of what the information is regarding. If it is a scene that I love, then I will provide some commentary that kind of generalizes how I feel towards the scene. Sometimes when I run out of a tab, I will substitute it with another one. Let's say that I run out of the green tab that describes some plot information, then I will use a dark purple tab that describes information about a character. They're both kind of similar in the sense that they're both describe some plot device or plot information, but I will underline it with the appropriate color just so in the future I know what I actually meant to annotate. If I'm feeling lazy about, you know, just going through the whole hassle of annotations, then typically I will have a pen on hand. I always have that with me, but instead of, you know, putting on tabs and underlining the whole thing, I'll just write a commentary alongside the passage, and then I will doggy tab the page. If I feel like going back to it in the future and appropriately annotating the section, then I will do so. If not, it's fine. In terms of what do I actually annotate, well, that just depends on the scenario. My commentary typically involves emotional reactions, questions about the book, comments on possible foreshadowings, comments directed towards the author, and sometimes my overall thoughts on the book. But that's typically when I pull out Postits, because sometimes, you know, I have a lot of thoughts and the margins of the books just don't give me enough space. So that's when I use the Postits. I also use the Postits, like I said before, to write down character names and their roles because it's overwhelming, like Fallen Kingdoms, like sometimes there are terms that are unique to that world, and so I will annotate those as well and provide a definition. But this is more of a rare process. I usually only do this for books that I plan on reviewing or school books. And that is it. I hope I made sense in this video. Like I said, my two brain cells are working overtime right now. I nearly pulled an all-nighter tonight because I procrastinated in writing a psychology paper. So here I am. But I hope you found this video interesting at the most. I hope that it inspired you to annotate, or if you're new, that it opened up your mind to the whole process. And at the least, I hope it entertained you. And if it did, please give this video a like. If you are looking forward to any future videos of mine, please subscribe. Leave a comment, tell me what your process is, or why you're against it, or why you're for it. Please stay safe, wash your hands, and practice social distancing. I'll see you next time. Bye.